Where is any black or African period in the history of choral music? Where does it begin, and where is it most significant in lieu of its presence?
Well, I think we're still discovering this, because if you go back to actually now that we're having more unearthing and sharing of the folk music of Africa. I mean, we historically knew this as people try to trace back the roots of the spiritual, and we knew how communal song was used to share history, to tell stories. The griots, who were often the storytellers in many African communities. They were the people who shared the news, but they were also the people who passed on the oral histories of a tribe to one another. And these were some of the earliest forms that we've known about. But as more this music is becoming known and shared, I think there's still a wealth of the history of really the origins of this great music. Now, I think it really has been the form of the African American spiritual, the Negro spiritual, that gave birth to a choral form. When these concert versions were starting to be created, basically with the Fifth Jubilee Singers. When that group was formed in the 1870s, and when it traveled to Europe in the 1880s, and with these concert versions, that's when the spiritual became a written form that could be shared. Certainly initially in the black community, among the traditionally black colleges as they were being developed. And in the solo versions, when the artists like Roland Hayes and Paul Robeson and Marian Anderson and that early generation, and later with Leontine Price and her colleagues on down to the present day, Denise Graves and others who continue that wonderful tradition. I think also it was when that concert spiritual came about that you finally had a form that was being recognized outside of the black community. I'm indebted to people and who's still living. He just had a birthday, so he has to be 91 or 92. Albert McNeil Jr., who founded the Albert McNeil Jubilee Singers, which is still functioning, and he's still conducting it in his 90s. He doesn't look it and he doesn't act it, but that was modeled on the Fifth Jubilee Singers, and he was a protege of both Chester Hairston and Hall Johnson. And then the person who, in a far too short of a time on this earth, especially, was Moses Hogan, who revitalized that genre of the spiritual, especially in his own arrangements, and then with his fabulous singers. And he was really kind of only on the scene for about 10 years. When you think about, he was doing his work for a while, but it's about 1993, and he died in 2003. But in that 10-year period, what he did to elevate the spiritual again, not just in this country and not just among North Americans, but throughout the world. He was a good friend and a dear friend. He wrote a setting of This Light of Mine that was dedicated to us and that we have performed on our Christmas special and taken around the world literally. I'll be taking it to Europe again next year, into Scandinavia, when I take the choir there in 2013.